The human stood at the edge of the alien hall, soaked from the acid rain outside, his voice echoing off the curved walls. "Let her go. You don't understand what you're doing," he said. His tone was calm, but there was something cold behind his eyes. Something dangerous. The alien guards didn't move. Their large, scaled arms were crossed, weapons resting at their hips. They looked at him as if he were an insect. Across the room, the princess lay unconscious inside a glass-like pod, her soft breathing the only sign of life. She was wrapped in thin silver fabric, her long dark hair scattered around her face like shadows. Her alien features were gentle, glowing slightly under the blue light. She didn't look like a warrior. She looked like someone who had never seen violence. "She's not just a royal," the human continued. "You're holding back a force you don't understand. I've read your history. I know the warnings. You sealed your own fate the moment you locked her up." High General Relith, a tall alien with 4 golden eyes and skin like molten stone, stepped forward. He gave a slow, amused blink. "You speak boldly for a species barely out of its cradle. We're not afraid of ancient stories. The girl is our prisoner. She crossed our borders. She broke the treaty." The human shook his head. "She didn't cross your borders. She was running from something. You took her in chains when she needed help." Relith tilted his head. "You care for her?" "No," the human said. "But I care what happens when she wakes up, and I care what happens to all of us if she doesn't." The guards laughed. Relith raised one hand and waved him away like dust. "Go back to your planet, human. Or do something foolish. Either way, you'll be gone soon." The human's jaw tightened. He glanced one last time at the sleeping alien princess, then turned and walked away. But not before muttering, "I warned you." That was the last peaceful hour anyone remembered. Exactly 67 minutes after the human left, the sky above Karen 5 split in half. Not in clouds, not in storms, but in silence. A tear of black light cut across the atmosphere like a scar. And from it came something no one had seen in 10,000 years. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive in the way normal creatures were. It was ancient metal and swirling void, as if space itself had grown teeth in a body. The sirens didn't even finish their first loop before the tower exploded. Inside the main council chambers, Relith shouted commands in a language too fast for even the machines to follow. But none of it mattered. No shields responded. No weapons activated. The power grid was vanishing, dying like fire in space. The princess's pod began to crack. The guards rushed toward her, but the air around the pod shimmered like heat off a furnace. One of the guards screamed and dropped, his skin sizzling as if boiled from the inside. And then her eyes opened. They glowed gold, not yellow, not amber. Pure gold. Her body floated an inch off the pod's base, hair lifting with invisible wind. Her voice, when it came, was like 1,000 whispers overlapping. "Why? Did you bind me?" None of them answered. Most of them couldn't move. Relith stepped back, clutching his chest as if the air had become too thick to breathe. She looked around slowly. Her gaze didn't show rage. It showed grief and old, aching power. "You woke them," she whispered. "You made them remember me." From the skies, the black shape opened its mouth, not with teeth, but with light. A beam fell from it and struck the city center. In seconds, whole blocks turned to dust. Some aliens tried to flee. Others called for help. But communications were dead. In the chaos, only one message was heard through the system, an old emergency warning that played on loop. Protocol Omega. Do not detain the air. If she is harmed, the Sentinels will come. Repeat. Do not harm the air. Too late. Far away, back on the human ship orbiting the moon, Captain Arden stood at the edge of the command deck. His crew watched the planet below, eyes wide, silent. He didn't look surprised. He looked tired. They didn't listen, one of the officers said quietly. Arden didn't answer. He just whispered, almost to himself, "We tried to warn them." And deep below on the burning planet, the golden-eyed princess turned toward the stars, toward where the human had gone. She remembered his voice, and for the first time in many years, something inside her felt safe. Even as the world around her fell into ***, the flames danced across the alien city as if the wind itself had gone mad. Buildings crumbled. Sky bridges collapsed into the black water canals below. The Sentinels, those massive beings from deep space, floated silently above the destruction, unshaken, unfeeling, unstoppable. The alien princess stood at the heart of it all. Her golden eyes scanned the chaos. She was barefoot, her silver garment torn, her skin glowing under the strange, shifting sky. Around her, the remaining alien soldiers had dropped their weapons. Some tried to run. Others knelt in panic, but she didn't attack them. She didn't move. She only whispered, "Where is the human?" A broken voice answered behind her. General Relith, bleeding and burned, crawled forward on one elbow. He left after giving his warning. Why do you ask for him? She turned to face him slowly. Because he was the only one who didn't see me as a weapon. He saw me as a warning. Relith coughed, his face bitter. He is weak. You're kind, you're all dangerous. She stepped toward him, and the air around her shimmered again. He froze. She didn't touch him, but still, his wound stopped bleeding. His pain lessened. "You sealed this fate by chaining me," she said softly, "but you will not die from it. Not yet." High above, the Sentinels began to shift. They were not machines. They were alive in a way only the old universe understood. They had no eyes, no mouths, just presence. Each one as large as a city, floating without sound. And now they were waiting. They were waiting for her. She closed her eyes. A sound like thunder without end echoed in her mind, old and familiar, the language of the Sentinels. A language only she, the last of her kind, could understand. "Your captors have broken the law of stars. Do you wish for judgment?" She stood still for a long time. The burning city screamed below her, but she was quiet. "No," she answered, "not yet." The Sentinels paused and then vanished. Gone in a blink, no sound, no trace, the destruction. Stopped far above, on the human ship, Captain Arden's crew gasped as the alien vessels disappeared from their screens. The fires were still burning, but the main threat was gone. She stopped them, whispered one of the crew members. The Sentinels just vanished. Arden didn't respond right away. He stared at the live feed. "She gave them mercy," he said at last, "even when no one gave her any." A young technician turned to him. "Should we return to the surface?" "Sir?" He nodded slowly. "Prep a shuttle. We're going back." "She's not just a princess. She's something more now." Back on Karen 5, the princess stood alone among ruins. Ash floated like snow. Silence settled over the city like a heavy curtain. But she was not alone for long. She turned her head slowly as she sensed a presence, familiar footsteps walking. Through smoke and debris, a human had returned. Captain Arden stepped over broken stone, past fallen statues and twisted metal. His uniform was torn from the earlier acid storm. His eyes locked on hers. "I thought I lost you," he said. She didn't smile, but her expression softened. "You came back." "I never wanted to leave," he replied. They stood for a moment, in silence. Around them, nothing moved. The city was broken. The people were hiding. But somehow, between them, there was still something steady. "You knew this would happen," she said. "You knew what I was." "I didn't know everything," he answered. "But I knew they were wrong to lock you away." She looked down. I was asleep for over 100 years. My kind, we weren't meant to wake this way. The Sentinels are tied to me by blood and oath. If I'm hurt, they awaken. If I die, they destroy. I read the archives, Arden said. But I didn't believe them until I saw it. You came anyway, she whispered. Yes, he said. Because I believed something else. That someone like you, if given a choice, would choose peace. She raised her eyes. I still can. But not alone. He stepped closer. Then don't be alone. She reached out, and for the first time in a century, someone touched her hand without fear. But deep underground, far beneath the surface of Karen 5, another force was moving something old, buried. For ages, now awakened by the Sentinel's brief appearance, it wasn't part of her. Power. It wasn't on her side. It was watching, and it was hungry. The quiet didn't last long. Deep under the city ruins of Karen 5, the ground trembled. At first, it felt like distant thunder. Then the vibration grew stronger, shaking broken towers, cracking the streets that were already damaged from the Sentinel strike. Captain Arden noticed it first. His eyes narrowed as dust trickled from a nearby arch. That's not an aftershock, he said. The princess's golden eyes grew sharp. No, she said softly. Something else is waking. Far below them, in the ancient catacombs built long before the aliens above ever claimed this planet, machines clicked to life. But they weren't built by modern hands. These were older pre-Sentinel. Their dark surfaces pulsed with blood-colored lights, and their wiring looked like veins rather than circuits. They had waited for her, not to protect her, but to use her. Back on the surface, the princess stepped away from Arden and knelt on the ground. She placed both hands flat against the cracked stone and closed her eyes. Her body went still, but her mind reached deep into the soil, past the broken pipes, past the buried cities, into something even deeper. She gasped. What is it? Arden asked. They knew, she said. The first ones. The builders of this world. They left a trap, a prison under the surface. But now, it's breaking open. You mean those things underground, are they part of your people? She shook her head slowly. No, they were enemies of mine. My ancestors sealed them, but when I was locked in that stasis pod, it weakened the bindings. Arden stepped back, scanning the sky. If they rise now, after all this destruction, we're not ready for another war. The ground cracked again, this time much closer. A pillar nearby shattered and fell, nearly crushing a ruined shuttlecraft. The trembling turned into a roar. Suddenly, a large shape burst from beneath the city square. Debris exploded into the air. Arden pulled the princess behind him as a massive black figure climbed into the light. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't a robot. It was something between both flesh and metal melted together, pulsing with heat, eyes glowing red across a face that looked more machine than alive. It screamed. Not with sound, but through vibrations that made their bones shake. Around them, more shapes began crawling out of the broken ground. 1, 2, 5, 10. A swarm. They're called the Hollowed, the princess said, her voice shaking. They were banished long ago for trying to feed on the minds of the living. Now they smell me. They want my link to the Sentinels. Arden pulled out his weapon, a plasma pistol that looked small and weak compared to the towering Hollowed. Machines. Still, he stood ready. We need to move, he said. Is there anywhere safe? She looked around, sensing the old pathway still buried beneath the rubble. There's a command vault, deep under the palace ruins. It was built by my people. If we reach it, I can activate the failsafe. What kind of failsafe? Arden asked, firing a blast at a nearby Hollowed that came too close. Her face was grim. One that locks me away again. Permanently. So nothing can use me. No, Arden said sharply. We're not doing that. We just got you out. I didn't say I wanted to, she replied. But if I don't, millions could die. They ran through the dust, down shattered steps, through echoing ruins once filled with laughter and music. Now there was only darkness behind them. The hollowed followed silent but fast. Their movements made no noise, only tremors. They didn't bleed. They didn't scream. They only hunted as they reached the vault doors. Arden's wrist scanner beeped red. They're closing in, he warned. The princess pressed her hand against a glowing symbol carved into the stone wall. Her golden light poured into the design, making it spin and unlock with a deep groan. The vault door opened, revealing a staircase that spiraled deep underground. They entered. The moment they stepped inside, the doors sealed behind them with a massive thud. Arden breathed out hard. How deep is this place? Far enough, she said. But it won't stop them forever. She looked around the vault. It was filled with glowing panels, ancient alien tech, and something else, an interface connected directly to her pulse. She stepped toward it. Arden grabbed her wrist. There has to be another way. The princess stared at him. Then help me find it, before they break through. Above them, on the surface, the hollowed paused. One turned its face to the sky, scanning the stars. And in the distance, across the galaxy, something responded to their signal, something far worse than the Sentinels, something that had been waiting in silence, watching, and now it was coming. Asterisk, the lights inside the vault flickered as the alien princess stepped forward. Her footsteps echoed through the circular chamber, and strange symbols lit up beneath her bare feet. She didn't look scared. She looked focused. Captain. Arden followed her closely, weapon still drawn, watching the shadows in case one of the hollowed had already found a way in. This place, he said, his voice low, was built before your time? She nodded. Long before. My ancestors made it during the first collapse when the galaxy was torn by war. They feared what I carry in my blood. So they made places like this to control it. You're linked to the Sentinels? Arden asked. Yes, she whispered. It's more than a signal, it's a bond. They obey me, but if I fall into the wrong hands, they'll obey my killer. Arden frowned. And the hollowed? What do they want from you? She stared at a glowing console in the center of the chamber. They want to overwrite me, not destroy me. They want to wear my mind like armor, and command the Sentinels themselves. Arden swore under his breath. Then we're not just protecting you. We're protecting the entire galaxy. She placed both hands on the console. Lines of gold light ran up her arms. The room responded, humming as walls shifted and new passages opened. Inside one of them was a long glass coffin surrounded by energy rings. It looked like a prison, but clean, quiet, final. This is the failsafe, she said. If I enter, it seals my mind from everything outside, forever. Arden stepped between her and the coffin. You're not doing that, not yet. You don't understand, she said. The hollowed are growing stronger by the second. I can feel them trying to break through the ground. If they get close enough, they'll try to merge with me. Then, let's not let them get close, Arden said. There has to be another way. Something in this place. Something built for defense. She looked away. There might be? He turned to her. Where? She hesitated, then moved to another panel and placed her fingers over a spinning sigil. The vault began to shake again, but this time from within. Something massive was waking up below them, underneath the vault itself. From the shadows, a large machine rose up through the floor. It wasn't like the hollowed. It was cleaner, sleek, built with ancient tech and glowing softly. A guardian, she said. Built to protect the last princess, me. The machine stood tall, at least 3 times Arden's height, with long arms, glowing runes, and a shielded core. It scanned them and spoke in a deep voice. Voice print confirmed. Royal blood detected. Defense mode authorized. Arden smiled a little. Now that's better. Suddenly, a loud blast hit the vault's outer door. Dust rained down from the ceiling. They're here, the princess whispered. The Hallowed had reached the entrance. Activate the Guardian. Arden shouted. The princess gave a single nod. Guardian, engage hostiles. Protect this chamber. The machine turned, stepped into position in front of the vault's sealed entrance, and waited. Seconds later, the thick doors began to crack. Red light poured through the edges. The Hallowed were burning their way inside. Arden grabbed the princess's hand. If this fails, I want you to run. Don't go into that pod. Don't give up your mind. We'll fight them together. Her golden eyes softened. You're the first person to say that to me. He held her gaze. I mean it. The first explosion ripped through the vault's door, and a Hallowed unit charged in, huge, sharp, and dripping with oily shadows. The Guardian met it head-on, blocking the attack with its glowing arm. Sparks flew. The entire chamber shook. Fight had begun, but far away, something else had heard the signal. Across the stars, a different kind of ship opened its eyes. One not built by machines, or aliens, or humans. A predator from before time. A devourer, and it was heading toward them. Not for Wardot, but for the princess. The Guardian fought like a storm trapped in metal. Every time a Hallowed creature stepped into the vault, it was thrown back with crushing force. The sound of heavy blows and shrieking sparks echoed through the chamber, but more kept coming. Captain. Arden reloaded his plasma pistol and fired at anything that got past the Guardian's defense. There's too many, he shouted, sweat running down his face. How many of these things are out there? The princess stood by the ancient console, her hands moving quickly across the glowing symbols. They're not alive. They're being guided by something stronger. Something hidden behind them. I can feel it watching me. Arden didn't stop shooting. Then find a way to break that link, she paused. I think I can. But I need to connect to the Sentinel network. Again. That'll draw attention to you, he warned. She nodded. I know, it already has. The floor shuddered as a larger Hallowed broke through the wall, not just taller, but built like a tank, covered in red-hot armor. It didn't attack right away. It stared at the princess, its face twitching like it was trying to form a human. Expression. Then it spoke, not in its own voice but in hers. We are many, it said in a whisper that matched her own tone. You are alone. Arden stepped in front of her, raising his weapon. Not anymore. The Hallowed lunged. The Guardian slammed into it mid-air, both of them crashing through a pillar. The blast knocked Arden and the princess off their feet. Alarms echoed through the vault, and flickering lights showed cracks spreading across the walls. We can't hold this place, Arden said. What do we do now? The princess stood up slowly. Her skin glowed brighter. We fight differently. She walked back to the central console and placed her palm on a golden panel. The vault responded, showing star charts and energy lines. Across space. What is that? Arden asked. It's a beacon, she said. A way to call the original Sentinels, the ones who first swore to protect me before I went into stasis. Can they help us? They're hidden, asleep across forgotten systems. But if I call them, they'll awaken. All of them. Arden's eyes narrowed. And what happens if they wake up and can't tell you're still in control? She hesitated. Then they'll burn everything. This planet. The Hallowed me. He stepped toward her. You don't have to do this alone. Let me link with the signal. Let me share it. She turned, surprised. A human mind isn't built for this kind of pressure. It could tear you apart. Arden stared at her. Better me than letting you get consumed. She searched his face for fear. But there was none. At last, she reached out and took his hand. Their fingers touched the console together. The moment they did, light exploded across the room. The star chart spun faster. The vault glowed with power that had slept for centuries. And out in the galaxy, in black systems forgotten by maps, the old Sentinels began to move. Massive orbs of living metal cracked open like eggshells. Engines powered by starlight awakened. Long quiet voices hummed in deep harmony. They were coming. But something else had arrived first. Outside the planet's orbit, a new shadow slipped through the stars. It didn't fly. It drifted. A black ship. The size of a continent. Not alive. Not dead. Just hungry. Inside the vessel, something ancient stirred. The devour. It had once eaten entire worlds. Long ago, it was locked in timeless sleep by the first Sentinels. But the Hallowed had whispered to it, called to it, and now it was awake. Back in the vault, Arden dropped to one knee, his body shaking. Blood ran from his nose. The pressure of the signal was too much. Let go, the princess shouted. You're going to break. But he gritted his teeth. Not letting you do this alone. And then, as the final connection locked in, the stars above the planet changed. A new light fell from the sky. The Sentinels had arrived. Asterisk. The sky above Charon 5 turned gold. Every sensor across the planet screamed. Alien systems crashed. The Hallowed froze mid-attack. Even the Guardian machine looked up, pausing its battle stance. From the stars, they came. The Sentinels. Not the smaller ones from before. These were the originals, the first sworn. They were colossal, made of pure energy wrapped in ancient metal, glowing like dying suns. Their presence was heavy, holy, impossible to look at directly. The space around them warped. Gravity bent. Time felt slower. They didn't fly, they descended. Thousands of them. The planet trembled. Inside the vault, Captain Arden was on the floor, his heartbeat uneven, but he was alive. The link had almost torn him apart, but he had held on. Now his eyes barely opened as he whispered, "Did it work?" The princess held his head gently in her lap, her fingers glowing softly as she healed him. "Yes," she said. "They heard." "US, they're here," he coughed. "Good, now. Tell them not to kill everyone." Outside, the Hallowed had stopped moving. The corrupted machines were backing away. Some tried to retreat underground. Others simply dropped, their bodies breaking apart. But it was too late. The Sentinels began their purge. From their golden cores, beams of judgment fell, not just blasts of light, but truth, sent directly into the code of the Hallowed. It burned. Through them, tearing out the infection that had spread from the Devourer. One by one, the Hallowed screamed not with voices, but through the collapse of their very shapes. The vault shook. Again, but not from the Hallowed. From the Devourer's arrival. It had reached the edge of the system, and it was watching. The princess stood, her eyes locked to the skies through the vault's overhead sensors. She felt it. A darkness that made even the Sentinels hesitate. The Guardian machine stepped forward and spoke for the first time since the battle began. Target approaching. Entity unknown. Classification extinction level. Arden pushed himself to his feet, wobbling. "That's it, isn't it? The real enemy." The princess nodded slowly. "The Devourer. The one that started the Hallowed. They were only its scouts. What does it want?" She turned to him, her face pale. "It wants me, my signal, my connection to the Sentinels. If it takes that, it controls them," Arden finished, "and ends everything." The vault lights flickered again. The Devourer wasn't close, but its influence had already started to poison the systems. In orbit, the smaller Sentinel units began to shudder. Some turned on each other for a moment before realigning. They're vulnerable, the princess sighed. I summoned them too soon. They're awake, but not fully stable. Arden looked at the stasis pod, the one meant to lock her mind away. Is that still an option? She looked at it for a long second. If I enter, I could shut the signal down. The Sentinels would return to sleep. The Devourer would lose its reason to come. And the Hollowed? They'd collapse without his command. Arden clenched his fists. But we'd lose you. The vault went silent. Even the machine seemed to wait. Then another voice came. Not from inside. From space. It was old, empty, like a whisper from something that had never lived but always wanted to. Give her to us. Give us the key, or your stars will fall. The princess froze. The Devourer had spoken. Even the Sentinels paused, their lights dimming for a heartbeat. Arden looked at her. What do we do? She stepped closer to the console. There's one more choice, a direct override. I can send a command through the network, order every Sentinel to destroy me if the Devourer tries to take control. No, Arden said. There has to be another way. There's not, she replied. But there's still time. She looked at him, her voice soft. Buy me 5 minutes. I can force the Sentinels to lock on to the Devourer's location. If they all strike together, they might destroy it before it reaches us. Arden loaded his weapon again. His hand trembled. But he smiled. 5 minutes? You'll get 6. Outside, the sky darkened as the Devourer's ship began its final descent. The world was about to end, or be saved by one last choice. The vault trembled as the Devourer entered orbit. It didn't use engines. It moved like a shadow over a dying flame, silent, slow, certain. From every screen, its black mass filled the sky. It stretched beyond logic, its shape shifting as if space itself bent to its will. The stars behind it vanished. Gravity twisted. Even light refused to touch it. Inside the vault, the alien princess stood still, both hands deep in the glowing console. Her golden light flowed into the Sentinel network. Lines of energy shot into the sky, linking her mind to thousands of powerful machines. Captain Arden stood beside the entrance, sweat on his brow, gun held tight. The last of the Hollowed had fallen, but the real enemy hadn't struck yet. How much longer? He asked. 2 more minutes, she said, her voice steady. But if I stop now, the network will collapse. The Sentinels won't know what to target. Another tremor shook the ground. The screens flickered red. Above the planet, the Sentinels formed into a ring circling the Devourer's ship like bees around fire. But they didn't attack. Not yet. They waited for the command. The Devourer sent another message. She belongs to us. Surrender her, or burn with her. The princess ignored it. Her fingers bled from the overload, but she didn't pull away. Energy crackled across her skin. Her eyes blazed with gold fire. I have the coordinates, she whispered. One more. Signal, just one more. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed through the vault. The ceiling above Arden cracked open. Tentacle of black smoke tore through the stone like paper. It moved fast, hungry, alive. It wasn't just looking for her. It was reaching for her mind. Nitrogen monoxide. Arden shouted. He fired shot after shot, but the smoke wasn't stopped by bullets. It passed through walls, fire, light. It only paused when it touched her aura, but even she started to shake. Her legs gave out. I'm losing control, she gasped. It's trying to overwrite me. Arden rushed to her and wrapped both arms around her, holding her tight. He didn't think. He just acted. Then he did the one thing no one expected. He kissed her. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't planned. It was raw human. Full of emotion. Full of life, and it worked. The dark force recoiled. The Devourer screamed, not through sound, but through the pain of being denied something it thought it already owned. She gasped. The light returned to her eyes, And in that final second, she hit the command. The Sentinels received it. All of them. Across the sky, every unit glowed gold. Then, in a perfect ring, they struck as one. The beams met at the heart of the Devourer's ship. There was no explosion. There was no sound. Only light. Light that burned so bright it erased the black shadow, completely burned through its lies, its hunger, its echo. Then silence. The vault shook one last time. Then stopped. Captain Arden opened his eyes. She was still in his arms. Alive. Breathing. Glowing. I thought we lost you, he said softly. She smiled faintly. I thought I lost myself. Outside, the sky cleared. The Sentinels hovered in perfect stillness. No longer aggressive. No longer unstable. They were waiting. For what? Arden asked. For your command, she said, turning to him, his brow furrowed. Mine? She nodded. You linked with me. You held the signal. They remember. Your touch. You're part of the code now. Arden blinked. What do I say? Whatever comes from your heart, she said. He stepped forward, speaking clearly. Protect, heal, rebuild, but never be used as weapons again. The Sentinels heard. And slowly, one by one, they vanished. Not in fear. Not in retreat. In peace. War was over. Days later, across Karen 5, the survivors emerged. The Hallowed were gone. The stars were safe. And in the center of the ruined palace, a new structure began to rise, a union between alien and human design. Arden and the princess stood at its heart. Two beings once feared by many. Now protectors of all. She looked at him, a strange warmth in her golden eyes. You saved me, she said. No, he replied. You saved us. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy was quiet, but not afraid. Not anymore.